a world where losing in your fantasy football league isn't an option, we present to you Triple Coverage Podcast.
Hey YouTubers, if you like what you hear and see, make sure you click subscribe below. Today we're going to continue on with our divisional breakdowns, and we're going to be in the NFC South today. So sit back, crack a cold one, and enjoy.
Have the sheet.
Well, pull that sheet out, bro.
Yeah. Well, if I'm gonna get a tan, that's where I want that, is the top of my feet.
Well, I put on sunblock because I didn't want to take the chance of getting burnt because I knew that's what was gonna happen. But apparently, I missed my feet.
Wow. So that's a big faux pas.
It ain't good, Cubby. I'll tell you that much.
You don't want to have dirt feet unless your body's all white. That's
dark. It's like lobster toes.
Pasty. Does it turn to a tan?
No, it peels and it goes back to white.
Oh boy.
And we're back, boys and girls. Children of all ages, welcome back to the podcast, Triple Coverage Podcast. I'm here with the boys, Jay Up.
What's up, guys?
And his younger brother, James.
Whoa, whoa.
And I'm Travis Sutton. And we are doing some breakdowns today, some divisional breakdowns. NFC South.
Yep.
We're going to hit the Falcons, the Panthers, the Saints, the Buccaneers, talk about fantasy relevance for you and your team. It will apply to redraft, dynasty, pretty much any format that you choose to dive into this time of year.
And this division's loaded too with fantasy talent.
Yes, there is a lot of heavy hitters in this division for sure. Where are we going to start? We're going to start with the Falcons.
Let's do it.
Anything you guys want to talk about or get into before we start rolling? I know we're all business around here, but
I can tell you maybe I should say it for Facebook Live. I have a quick little story.
We already did Facebook Live on Tuesday.
Well, if you listen, you already heard it then.
You don't want to drop the same nugget twice?
No, I don't want to drop the same nugget twice.
Okay. Good choice.
Yeah, that's a very good choice.
It gets repetitive.
And by the way, I do wash my hands around here. I know last week there were some things said.
No, you didn't know what color the soap was.
I'm very hygienic, sir. It's a scrub in there, bro. I know you.
It's not a scrub.
It's a foam.
It's a foam.
You don't got the scrub anymore?
Nope, hasn't been in there forever. Never in that bathroom.
No, not this one. The one. When I'm dropping nuggets, I go downstairs.
Maybe he was thinking the other studio.
Okay, then yes, there's a scrub in that
All
one.
right then.
Which doesn't mean that you use it. It just means
Throw
you
me
saw
under
it.
the
It just
bus.
means that you looked at it.
My hands have never been softer.
You come over here, you get soft hands, okay? That's what my receivers. I want all my receivers to have soft hands.
Yeah, yes, I agree.
I'm fantasy relevant in this house.
Whoa.
All right, Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
Tell us something we don't know.
Okay, Jay, I know sometimes you got to get into some nuggets. You got anything for the overall team aspect or coaches or anything before we roll into the positional players?
Well, it's the second year in Sarkisian's offense. We saw how they kind of struggled a little bit after Shanahan left. So I'm curious to see if they take that extra step. If you remember, Matt Ryan also struggled the first year of Shanahan's coaching.
I remember.
As offensive coordinator. So the second year being in his offense, I wonder if he's back on track. Matt Ryan could be a good bounce back candidate.
When I looked at the entire team as far as fantasy wise, everyone that was a starter on that team last season finished in the top 30 or earlier in their respective categories, like wide receiver, quarterback, and everyone said that they had a down year as far as like the team itself was having a down year. Like you just didn't really hear much about Atlanta. They kind of skated under and somehow still finished 10-6 last season. They were right there at the top of the division with the other two teams, but if you looked deep into their team, and like everyone kind of performed pretty well. I mean, you had Freeman missed a couple of games, Coleman missed a game as well, and they still all finished as running back 14 and running back 23. Like they were all in the top 24. Matt Ryan had a really down year. He finished as quarterback 15, just outside of QB1. Like
I think it's because of what everyone expected.
Right.
Like with that last year before Shanahan got the head coaching job with the Niners. That last year was special. Like with it, like everybody blew up. Like everyone had a monster year.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone just expected it to be like, hey, they didn't lose anybody. They have all the same players, so it's gonna be the same thing again. And it just wasn't that way.
The one thing that stood out though that I just couldn't get over was the touchdowns just weren't there for the entire team. I mean, you had Freeman and Coleman combined for 12 rushing touchdowns, which is okay, but Matt Ryan only threw 20 touchdowns. So if you look at like 20 touchdowns, you easily see him throwing 30. You know what I mean? I want my guy throwing at least 30, 31 touchdowns. If you're Atlanta Falcons, you have Julio Jones and all these weapons around you, you would assume that getting 30 touchdowns is not out of the realm of, where you want your guy to be if you do own that him as your quarterback. But it's just what he threw for over 4,000 yards, but 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. It's just not like him. He's usually a pretty accurate quarterback, and usually you can rely on him getting the, at least 28 to 32 touchdowns.
I think he's an excellent bounce back candidate, like I just mentioned a minute ago.
I think the whole team is kind of.
Yeah, and not only that, but if you look at, like we talked about on our quarterback rankings last week, it's really deep in quarterback, and this is an excellent guy that you can get super, super late if you're in a redraft. And I'm talking like after the 8th, 9th round.
Just
because
where
your starter, because of where you finished last year, he can definitely give you QB1 numbers on a week-to-week basis. So this is why we always tell you, wait on quarterbacks, especially in a redraft. Like, wait on quarterbacks, because you get guys like this so far back that you can load that front into your draft with, 4 receivers and 3 running backs before you have to take somebody like Matt Ryan.
So would you, if you're in a redraft league, this question's I guess to both of you, would you rather have Devontae Freeman, who you have to spend a early 2nd round pick on, or would you rather have, like, say, Tevin Coleman, who's probably going to be going in the 6 to 8 round range?
It all depends, but I'd probably rather have Freeman. I want the starter. I want the main guy in the cog.
Right.
Yeah, the other guy does very well, but
if you look at the last 3 seasons, Freeman's touches start up in the 300 range and tail down, and whereas Tevin Coleman was like getting like 100, and now his keep trending up. And if you look at the last 3 seasons, I saw a chart that was on Twitter that somebody posted, and it had all their touches and carries and everything on it, and it literally is like they start super far apart, and now by 2016, 2017, 2018, now if you look at last season, like Freeman had 196 carries and Coleman had 156. Like, they're getting now to the point where it's literally a 1A, 1B, and if somebody is going 4 or 5 rounds after the other guy that's technically 1A, I'll take the guy at 1B and get the guy that's 4 rounds later. That's getting,
100%. I think this is a 1A, 1B situation. It's not so much like Devontae Freeman's like the clear-cut starter and he's going to get every carry type of deal. I think this is getting closer and closer to a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Tevin Coleman is a free agent after this year, so he's probably going to be moving on.
He's going to get a bump, I think.
He's going to get a bump. Not too much, though. I don't think it's going to get crazy. My whole thing is with Freeman is last year you kind of saw him start to not break down, but he started to get those little injuries like missing a game here, missing 2 games in a row there, and that's the first time that's happened to him. And I'm not saying it's a sign of things to come, but it just shows that maybe he's getting that little bit of wear and tear because his body's not really built to maybe be an every down back. So it worries me, and I personally won't be spending an early 2nd round pick on Freeman. I'd rather wait and get somebody else.
I'm scared.
I don't know if I even go if Coleman's like my 3rd running back and he's in the 6th, 7th, 8th round, then yeah. But I don't want Freeman as my number 1 running back.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, is your number 1? I definitely am not the biggest fan of Freeman, but out of the 2, I would rather have Freeman myself.
But then even knowing that, like, let's say 1st round you went receiver, and then 2nd round is Freeman, now he's your number 1 running back, you'd be...
I don't know if that's what I would do.
Right.
Normally there's guys on the board that I like a little bit better, but out of those 2,
okay,
I would rather have
gotcha.
Freeman.
Right. I agree.
Wide receiver is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, Julio Jones is a top 5 receiver. The only thing that scares us every single year, and it happens every year, is that he's questionable a lot, and then he ends up playing, but you don't know whether he's going to be a decoy or if he's actually fully healthy. That's the only thing that really worries you about Julio Jones, but he's a type of receiver that is a week winner.
Yeah.
And when I say that, he's the type of guy that at any point can blow up for 50 points in fantasy. And that's a guy that you want on your team. And yeah, you're going to have those duds. He's not, to me, he's not like an Antonio Brown where he's consistently getting you those big numbers.
But his touchdowns have to go up. Like, for him to
everybody's touchdowns you just talked about were down. So.
Right, but he only had 3 touchdowns last season, but he had 1,444 yards, which is like, that's what he does. He gets the yardage. His receptions are always like between, the 75 to 90 range, which that's what you expect from an elite receiver like that. But it's his yardage that kind of separates him from everyone else besides him and Antonio Brown. Is what they do, is just get a lot of catches, a lot of yards. But if you give him another 3 touchdowns or so, or 4 touchdowns, he goes from wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 2. You know what I mean? He's not that that's splitting hairs, but give my guy some touchdowns.
Yeah, but over his career, he's not
never got
a touchdown guy.
Right.
He's had a year or 2 where he's
10, right?
got a little spike in touchdowns. Yeah, 1 double-digit year in touchdowns. Pro Football Focus has some interesting stats. Points per opportunity. So every time he actually gets the opportunity to get to score, he's second in points per opportunity last year.
Because the red zone targets, right?
Antonio Brown was number 1, and he was number 2. So he's tied with DeAndre Hopkins. So per opportunity, when you give him a chance, most likely he's got a great chance to score.
They were
He's
just
a great
they were just very sloppy in the red zone last season. The whole team was, and they just couldn't get it together. Once they got inside the 20, even inside the 10-yard line, they just couldn't make it happen. They had plenty of opportunities and ended in field goals. Unfortunately, and that's impossible when you have Julio Jones there. And then Mohamed Sanu is gigantic as well.
I think that them adding Calvin Ridley
Yeah.
in the draft, I think that's a huge plus for a wide receiver. Some people will look at it and say maybe it takes away from Julio Jones and Mo Sanu, but I think that helps them out because now they have 3 very capable receivers. And Calvin Ridley's the type of guy that they talked about. He's a little bit older coming out in the draft. He's 23 years old when the start of the season happens, and he's a good route runner. So who are you going to pick to leave open? Like, obviously, you're going to try and get a little more coverage towards Julio Jones' side. But if you do that, Mohamed Sanu is a very capable wide receiver, too, in the offense.
He always has been, yeah.
And if you have Ridley, whether he's in the slot or whether he's outside with Jones, he's also a good guy that's going to catch the ball, too. So
does he walk in, Ridley, as pretty much the third guy right away? I mean, he jumps over Justin Hardy, Russell Gage.
There's no one else even worthy to mention on that team besides those 3.
That's one of the reasons why I'm so high on Calvin Ridley as a rookie. Coming out, and in the rookie draft, he went in the top 10 in ours. I think he went number 10. But I think that route running wise and how polished he is on his routes already kind of gives him an advantage. And you're going to a high powered offense. I think he's going to have every opportunity to have a decent season fantasy wise. I don't know. Definitely in dynasty, in rookie draft. I'm sorry, in redrafts. I would not mind taking a late round flyer on him if he's still available there at the back end of the 14th, 15th round in that range because he could produce for you as the season goes along.
Yeah. I kind of think so. I'm still up in the air a little bit because who was it last year? It was Sanu, Jones, and Taylor Gabriel.
Yes.
Those are the 3. And Taylor Gabriel, although he's a different kind of receiver, got less than 50 targets. It was Sanu and Jones who got the majority of the targets. Sanu got close to 100 targets. Jones definitely gets the lion's share of everything. So I still think he's going to eat, but because it's not really that Taylor Gabriel type, I think he's going to compete with Sanu for targets. And Sanu's a wily vet, and it's going to be hard to really steal a whole bunch of targets from a guy that Matt Ryan trusts, I'm sure, probably, quite a bit. So I don't know how high his ceiling kind of is for this season. I do like Calvin Ridley in that offense, definitely. But I do think it's going to be, I wouldn't draft. I think it would be too risky. So unless it was super late, like you said, like a flyer, then I would take a shot on him if I had some room on my bench. But also he might be a guy that would be the first to get cut if it just isn't kind of happening early in the season.
Is it completely out of the realm that Calvin Ridley outscores Mohamed Sanu fantasy-wise this year?
I don't think it's out of the realm. And the whole correlation with Taylor Gabriel, to me, I think that his entire career, Taylor Gabriel has been used as a one-trick pony.
Right.
A gadget guy. I don't think Ridley's anywhere near that realm. I think he's more of a possession guy. I agree. I look at Calvin Ridley as like the type of season that maybe Cooper Kupp had with maybe less red zone targets. I think that he's going to get up there in targets, even though he's a quote-unquote third receiver on there. I think he has a Cooper Kupp type season as a rookie with just maybe less red zone targets than Kupp had.
I think he can outscore Mohamed Sanu. I think if Sanu had 5 touchdowns last season, if Sanu just gets 2 touchdowns, he had 67 catches last year. I mean, if you take 15 of those catches away and give them to Ridley, and the targets, all of Gabriel's targets, those 50 that Travis just talked about, those 50 targets go to Ridley. I think that he's a better receiver as far as route running wise than Taylor Gabriel was, and I think that he can easily get his 70 to 75 targets, which if he gets 75 quality targets and he makes 48 to 50 catches there, he's going to be right there with Mohamed Sanu. But I love all 3 options in Atlanta. I think they have a big season offensively, and if you get any part of this offense in any realm, whether it be the quarterback, running back, or any of these receivers, I think that you'll be happy with fantasy relevance anyways.
So yeah, the only guy I really want would be Jones.
Even Sanu is like a number 3?
I think, no, not really. I think they cannibalize each other, Sanu and Calvin Ridley. I think you'll either never know really who's going to benefit, and I think Sanu, he's a beast. The kid's a beast. He's a good red zone target as well. So I don't know what the upside for Calvin Ridley is this season for me. So I'd probably stay away. I think it's kind of risky for me. But definitely Jones. Definitely the running backs I like, and I think Matt Ryan does have a bounce back year this year.
And so he was under contract until 2021. So he'll be a free agent in 2021. They just locked him up to a 5-year deal in 2016. So,
Any tight end relevance on this team?
Actually, yeah, I want to talk about him for just a second. Austin Hooper. A lot of people said that he didn't, play the way everyone thought he was going to play, but he's just entering his 3rd year. And we've talked about this so many times on this show that with these tight ends that come out, there's always a lot of high hopes and high expectations, but they really don't come into their own until their 3rd year. So I don't see why there was so much hate on him last year, only it being his 2nd year. And the 1st year he had, he was there with Jacob Tamme, who was still fantasy relevant. So that 1st year he was just kind of learning. 2nd year he comes in, which was just 2017, and yes, he got more opportunities, but he was only in his 2nd year. Now he's coming into his 3rd year, so to me, if he didn't do anything this year, then we can start calling him a disappointment at the position. But I'm not ready to jump off the Austin Hooper train just quite yet.
Do you own him in any leagues?
I might own him in one dynasty league. I only started him maybe a handful of times last year, but
Finishes tight end 17 last year. I mean,
not terrible, but where the expectations were,
yeah.
They thought he was going to be, a top 12 guy, and he finishes outside the top 12, and so everyone was kind of like, oh, he had a bust year, whatever, this and that, but he's just coming into his 3rd year this year.
Yeah, 2 guys he's going to be able to beat out now is Jason Witten, who's not there anymore, and Ben Watson. I mean, is he really still?
Well, he's on New Orleans, so he's relevant.
Yeah, I like Ben Watson this year more than I like Hooper. Hunter Henry's out of the mix too, so
Yeah, that's true
he'll
too.
probably take a little. I'm not a Hooper fan. I think there's too much for me. There's too many other weapons there. The tight ends that coming into his own in 3rd year, like what is that ceiling really? Because in places where you got like Gronkowski and Kelsey, they're like the main guys pretty much. They're a huge part of that offense.
Right.
He's sliding into like what position? If he beasts out the third guy on that thing,
I don't think it's going to be more of a. I don't think it's going to be like Witten, like where he gets a lot of receptions and he's like one of the team leaders. I think that he's going to be very touchdown dependent, but he's so big that he should be a red zone target. I mean, he's 6'3", 254 pounds. Like he should be a red zone target.
Yeah. So should Julio Jones, but he's not.
He was a target. They just couldn't hit him.
Julio Jones, if you remember though, last year, like the first 6 games, he had like either 0 or 1 red zone target in the first 6 games. Julio Jones. So that, to me, that was the offensive coordinator's fault.
Yeah, I'm not. But it's been kind of throughout his career. It shows in the touchdown category that if he was utilized more in the red zone, there's no way he'd be getting less than 6, 7, 8 touchdowns every year.
Plus, he had that one in the playoff game against the Eagles where they should have won that last second, where the Eagles player pushed him down and they didn't call pass interference.
I don't know if they pushed him now, but okay.
Well, I mean, he's hand on his shoulder and kind of shoved him down.
Okay, who's next? Or where do you see Atlanta finishing? Do you see them winning the division possibly? Do you see them? Should we even get into that?
It's a 3-horse race.
I have them finishing exactly 10-6 again.
For me, it's between Atlanta, Carolina, and New Orleans. Tampa Bay is completely out of the question as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
I see it. Yeah, I see them finishing either 2nd or 3rd.
10-6. But
I don't think they're going to win it.
Yeah, I mean they're going to compete for it for sure. It's another fun. The South, AFC and NFC are some fun divisions.
Always up for grabs. It seems like
for this year especially. I think it's going to be very competitive in both of those.
Okay. Next, Carolina Panthers.
Carolina.
Whoa.
Okay. What do we got about them?
So
anything with the overall team aspect?
Nothing with the overall team aspect.
Same coaches.
Same coaches. Nothing changed.
Not
there.
many changes.
New owner?
Yeah, but they haven't gotten a new owner yet. The owner had it up for sale, but the new ownership hasn't bought it out yet. Correct?
Are you sure? I thought.
P. Diddy?
We'll have to check that because I thought I was just watching a press conference.
Did it just happen?
I don't quote me on this, but I think I was just watching a press conference with him, and they were asking him peppering him with questions, all kinds of questions. So either way, it's probably not going to have a super huge effect this upcoming year if they change owners kind of at this point. Whatever he's going to implement, I think will be definitely felt in the future. But so far going to the quarterback position?
Yeah, Cam Newton, I mean, nothing much you can say that's really that bad about him. It says the Carolina Panthers reportedly get a new owner Tuesday with the sale prices double the league records. Ian Rappaport says $2.2 billion deal should close today. So
End of May is actually when it closed.
End of
David
May.
Tepper.
Yes,
Oh,
I was watching yep, that's the guy. I was watching the
hedge
NFL.
fund manager, cute.
Yeah, they were pepping him with all kinds of interesting questions.
So you have Cam Newton, who's gonna be a QB1. We all think, correct? I mean, easily. Last season finishes QB number 6.
Yeah, nobody behind him to even worry about.
No,
Possible
Garrett
top
Gilbert.
5.
Yeah, possible top 5. I think easily. I was kind of surprised when I delved into his numbers a little bit that he had 139 rushing attempts last season, and I don't know for whatever reason, like I don't look at Cam Newton as a running quarterback anymore. I know he gets a lot of quarterback sneaks and a lot of goal line stuff, but I don't think of him as a designed run quarterback type of guy anymore. But I guess I was kind of surprised because you had McCaffrey, who was, splitting time, and he had 117 carries, and you look at Newton, who had 22 more carries than Christian McCaffrey. I don't know, I was kind of surprised by that. He rushed for 754 yards and 6 touchdowns, Cam Newton did, which was huge. I mean, that put him in the RB2 range.
It comes and goes with his touchdowns.
But I'm saying that's he's in the top 20 running back range, and then also on top of that, he gives you his quarterback numbers. And those weren't bad either. He threw 22 touchdowns, which is 2 more than Matt Ryan threw. A couple more interceptions than Matt Ryan, but the yardage wasn't there. He threw only 3,300 yards. So the yardage is going to get you when you're only getting 1 point for every 25 yards throwing. But the rushing, usually in standard formats or in PPR leagues, you're getting 1 point for every 10 yards rushing, and he rushed for 754 of those yards. That's 75 extra points just in the yardage that you're not going to typically get from your starting quarterback, and you got to eat that up, and that's why he finishes where he does every single season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. There's nothing you can... I don't have anything bad to say about him except for he throws a lot of interceptions, but he doesn't usually take extreme risk. He's not like a Brett Favre type that he's gunslinging all over the field, but for what he has at receiver, it's kind of impressive that he's still able to finish in the top 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks every season with Devin Funchess and Greg Olsen?
I think we've seen, when it clicks, he's a good quarterback.
For sure.
The year they went to the Super Bowl, he had a phenomenal season.
He's streaky, would you say? Because he just breaks off sometimes 6 losses in a row. You're like, what the hell's going on?
Whether the team wins or loses, fantasy-wise, I think because he's able to kind of use his feet, and he's a big guy around in the red zone area and whatever, he's always pretty consistent for you. That's a big reason in a Superflex that I took him fairly high because I think he's going to be very viable fantasy-wise, especially this year. I think they're going to have a little bounce back with some of the weapons they acquired.
I feel like sometimes though when he gets down,
he's
almost like mentally he kind of he counts himself out of it. Like when things are going good and things are clicking,
Superman with the wind at his back.
Jay Freud.
He's hitting everything and he can't miss and he's having a blast out there and you can see it on his face and it's like the best party of his life.
You know what it reminds me of? Like at work when you get hit with a $20 hit and then the very next one's a 20 and you don't care. At that point you're like, man, this is like
flying high.
I'm walking everyone. I don't care. Like nothing can bother you. But when you get stiff to 3 or 4 times, what's your attitude like?
Yeah, your attitude goes right in the,
so you're like
the
Cam
dumpster. And so Cam Newton's the same way. Like when things are going bad for him or like there's guys around him not making plays, it's almost like he's that kid that wants to stomp his feet and walk off the field and take his ball with him. It's
but you know what though? I thought early in his career it was like an immaturity thing. Is what everyone says. He's just immature. He's used to winning. He went to Auburn. He had all those undefeated seasons. Then he goes to national championship. And then it was like he was not accustomed to losing. And he probably dominated.
He came from JUCO. He had an interesting kind of career because of all that
stuff
that went on with his
dad
and all that.
Physically wise, he's always dominated the game. And then he comes to the NFL. Now he's playing with guys that are all his caliber. And now there's no excuse for the immaturity thing. He's 29 years old at this point. By the time the season starts, which I was kind of surprised by. I thought he was a lot younger than that. I don't know. Seems like he's been around for a while, but 29 years old. Okay, at this point, it's time to grow up a little bit, bud.
I do not subscribe to the same immaturity.
Back in the day, they were saying it was immaturity.
You also didn't meet him personally.
Oh yeah.
So I don't harbor some old salty feelings.
I didn't even remember that, but yeah, you're right, Jay.
So
immature city.
For me, I think even last year it was kind of a definite talking point that they treat him a little bit different. Like he gets beat up, and sometimes the refs they're not really. It's different with him. So I think part of that is that he gets a little upset. I think he's a huge competitor, and I think you see that in when things are going good. He's out there competitive, but because he's such a huge competitor, and he got trashed last year, and he got
Same
hit.
thing as Big Ben, though. It's like when you're big, just like Shaquille O'Neal in the NBA or
That's what I was
LeBron,
gonna compare it
you
to.
get hammered, and like you might not get the foul call or the penalty call because you're a lot bigger guy. But that's, I mean,
That doesn't mean that's how it should be.
yeah, I guess.
So I mean,
But you can't mope about it either. Like
Right.
Shaq didn't mope about it. Like he was like, "Damn, that's a foul. Like that's a foul," you know. But he didn't like go around moping about it if he didn't get the foul call.
Okay. All right. So Cam
Running
Newton's
backs.
crybaby for you guys, and
A little bit,
he's
yes.
a top quarterback still. So all right.
I still love him on my fantasy team.
Running backs. Mr. Mopey, you're out of here.
All right, yeah, Christian McCaffrey, C.J. Anderson. Okay, after them you have Cameron Artis-Payne, who might get some touches somewhere down the line, maybe
With
as a
an
short
injury,
short
yeah.
yardage or maybe goal line every once in a while. No one thinks Elijah Hood or Kenyon Barner's got any kind of
No,
okay.
no
So
relevance
let's stick to
whatsoever.
Christian McCaffrey and C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, not without injuries.
Uh,
Everything changes with injuries, of course.
C.J. Anderson obviously coming over from Denver last season. He rushed for a little bit over 1,000 yards. He finished as running back number 17 in the league for a PPR league and ours. And you had McCaffrey he finished as number 10, RB10. So you have two guys now that finished in the top 17 in the same backfield. Do you think it shakes down exactly the same and they treat C.J. Anderson like he was Jonathan Stewart from last season? And they just keep Christian McCaffrey kind of the same?
To me, this is a great way, 1-2 punch as far as running back duos go because
It's
I think
better than Jonathan Stewart,
Christian
correct?
McCaffrey's role isn't going to change at all. He's still going to be that PPR guy, and he's going to get a few carries here and there. C.J. Anderson, to me, though, is an upgrade over what Jonathan Stewart was last year. And I think that in Denver, C.J. Anderson didn't really know what his role was. Like, they were sprinkling Devontae Booker, they were sprinkling in this guy, that guy. I don't think he really knew week to week what his role was going to be. I think in Carolina, he knows what his role is going to be. It's going to be the first and second down guy. Every once in a while, he'll catch a pass, but they know that Christian McCaffrey is their guy for third downs.
So you had McCaffrey last season had 113 targets for a running back. That is like, I mean, that's wide receiver 1.
And now, see, I don't think that goes up. I think it stays right about the same.
113 targets, he had 80 catches. 80 catches, 650 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, with all said and done, he's a wide receiver. He's a wide receiver, top 20 guy with those numbers in the wide receiver realm. So then the bonus that you're getting from McCaffrey is those touches that he gets sporadically in there. And he had 117 touches last season for 435 yards and 2 touchdowns. That to me is just extra on top of the icing that you expect from your PPR guy like that.
That's why we always talk about knowing your rules of your league. Like someone like Christian McCaffrey in a standard league where you're only scoring touchdowns and yards probably isn't going to be a top pick. But you're looking at a PPR league, and all of a sudden he shoots right up there to the top 12.
Top 2 rounds, yeah.
So that's know your rules and know what you're getting for receptions. Know if it's standard. Know if you're just touchdown dependent. But I think that this is actually an upgraded backfield from what it was last year. I think that McCaffrey's still going to be in the 100 to 115 target range, and I think C.J. Anderson is going to play a lot better than he would. As a matter of fact, C.J. Anderson is a guy that you can get super late in drafts. Travis, you actually did in one of our dynasty startups. You got C.J. Anderson really late, and I think that he's a guy that's going to give you solid value.
He's my first running back in the 10th round?
Yeah, I wouldn't go crazy and make him my first, but you kind of went a different way with the quarterback because it was super flex. But the value that you got him at by getting him in the 10th round
I like it.
was great.
I mean, last season he only had 3 touchdowns, and he finished RB17. We talked about it on a previous episode that if he just gets a couple more touchdowns in there, he's finishing almost as a running back 1 last season. And now you're on a better, in my opinion, a better offensive line, better situation.
Yeah,
for
Denver was kind of a mess last year, so.
Quarterback obviously is a lot better in Carolina from what they had as well. So I think that his numbers could stay the same or trend a little bit up.
I think he just needs to stay healthy. That was kind of the knock with CJ. He always got nicked up and banged up, and so yeah, that was his first time over 1,000, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 1,007, squeaked over.
So yeah, I think it looks good. It should be a good situation for him.
Wide receivers, let's hit them.
Wide receivers. This is a group that's not super impressive until we see what DJ Moore has. I mean, I like this rookie a lot, but at the top of the list they have Devin Funchess right now. I know a guy that some people will call underrated. I'm not super impressed with Funchess, but I know Travis, you're kind of high on Funchess, aren't you?
I like Funchess,
I'm not
but
super high on Funchess.
it was me. I think
It was you. Okay,
Yeah.
James, you were super high on Funchess. Okay. I mean, when you round it out, you have basically Devin Funchess, DJ Moore, and Torrey Smith as the only guys I see being fantasy relevant for this year, especially for redraft. Dynasty-wise, you maybe take a look at Curtis Samuel as the 4th guy because he's only coming into his 2nd year, but he's coming off a major injury. Like I said, they added Torrey Smith and they added DJ Moore. So does that help this wide receiving crew out very much?
Yeah, I think it does.
From what it was last year, I think that getting Greg Olsen back, though, in my opinion, is the one that kind of pushed
For sure. Torrey Smith's going to play that Ted Ginn role. So, I mean, he's going to just be a guy that stretches the field out quite a bit. That doesn't mean he's going to be super relevant fantasy-wise, I don't think. But yeah, it does depend on DJ Moore for me. I mean, rookies, like, is he in a better position than Calvin Ridley? Do you like him better than Calvin Ridley?
No.
Who we just talked about?
Who?
DJ Moore.
Yes.
So you think he'll outscore Calvin Ridley?
Yeah. Easily.
See, I don't know.
Easily.
I don't
Yeah.
know. That
Like
to me that's literally a 50-50 toss up with
No.
DJ Moore and Calvin
No.
Ridley.
Why? Tell me why.
Because I think that he's going to be the number 2 option as far as receivers go, with the potential of possibly taking over Devin Funchess very soon. I don't think Funchess is that, like, he finished as wide receiver 21 last season. He had 111 targets. I'm looking at just target-wise. Carolina Panthers, just receivers. Devin Funchess finished as wide receiver 21. The next wide receiver that finished on their team finished as wide receiver 114th. So
they also had a receiver leave town, go to Buffalo.
right, Kelvin Benjamin. Right, I'm just saying, there's a lot of
going on.
right. So now I think that I think if you add DJ Moore to this, I think that is going to be a world of difference for Cam Newton to go from Shepard and Samuels and these just guys that are just garbage to a receiver that could potentially have elite.
But here's the thing: is you have to look at it as options. Like you're kind of comparing it to Atlanta with Calvin Ridley, like we said, but you're looking at it as options. Like Atlanta's tight end, not as good as Greg Olsen.
Yeah, not just receivers, pass catchers.
And you're looking at Christian McCaffrey is one of the best pass
Where does
catching.
he really slot in?
So Christian McCaffrey's dump offs and like slants and
It's
like
still a
crossers.
pass.
Still, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Okay, but he threw the ball he threw the ball almost 500 times last year. So who's getting the targets? You had 111 go to Funchess, right? 111 to Funchess and 113 to McCaffrey. Okay.
And Olsen that was hurt, so he's going to
Right.
get.
Okay, but that's only
as well.
yeah, but that's only 224 targets to the top wide receiver and the running back you guys just mentioned. That leaves 300 targets still to go to Olsen and DJ Moore and Torrey Smith. Like how many do you honestly think Torrey Smith's going to get? How many targets? Last season he had 68 and he played the entire year.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? There's going to be hundreds of targets.
I would want to look a few more years back and see what really is the average time they throw it. Do they throw it 500 times or that number that you're using
Probably, yeah.
every year? Well, I'm not ready to jump out on that limb and say that's the case, but yeah, there will be targets to go around. But it's still a rookie, man. For me, it's still a rookie.
I guess the difference for me by saying like DJ Moore over Calvin Ridley for me personally is because Ridley fits in where Atlanta didn't really lose much. Atlanta didn't lose anything on their offense. I mean, obviously, like they threw the ball how they threw the ball like they always do with Matt Ryan. But with Panthers, I think that it's a huge upgrade from what they had, and I think that the targets are going to be more, instead of being dispersed to 15 different guys, I think the targets there in Carolina get narrowed down to McCaffrey and Devin Funchess, and then the third option is going to be Olsen and DJ Moore. And I think the odd man out is like Anderson's going to get a couple here and there. Torrey Smith's a deep threat. They're not going to get many, maybe 30 to 50 targets at the most. That leaves 400 targets to be split by 4 guys.
So for me, the best case scenario for his rookie year is he's the third guy in line. I don't think he can get any better than third.
I think he can overtake Funchess.
I think and that would put him at third.
That would put him at third, behind Olsen and McCaffrey.
Okay.
If it's a guy that gets passes, you have to count him in.
Okay.
In the receiving core wise, though, can he not be the wide receiver 1 here?
But what does that mean when you're not going to be better than the third best guy?
Because if he's getting 115 targets, I don't care if he's the third or fourth or fifth option. The guy, I'm looking at strictly targets. If you don't want to put him in order of like who's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just target wise. If you want to give 120 targets to Olsen and 115 again to Christian McCaffrey and 111 to Funchess, that leaves 200 targets that are still there for somebody to get. And I think the majority of those are going to go to DJ Moore. That's all.
I'll take a wall bet
On
Ridley over Moore for fantasy points.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, put it on the wall. I'll take Ridley. You take more fantasy points into the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wall bet, baby.
Let's move on to the tight ends. So we spent a lot of time on Carolina.
Pretty much, there's nobody else really.
It's Greg Olsen and nobody else. They have Ian
Thomas.
Thomas, who was drafted. He's only a dynasty look right now. He's somebody you want to put on your taxi squad possibly.
Okay, the only really thing is if he gets hurt again and goes down, who probably steps up? And is that person going to be fancy relevant for you?
Which Olsen does get hurt a lot with his little feet and his ankles and shit. Stuff. Sorry about that.
Well, plus his age is up there too. But I mean,
Right.
if he stays healthy, he's a top 4 tight end.
Right, but we're talking if he doesn't stay healthy.
If he doesn't stay healthy, Ian Thomas, I think for sure.
He's a plug and play if he stays healthy. No
Yeah,
doubt.
100%. I don't know who Chris Manhurts is, but he has no chance beating out Ian Thomas.
Nobody for me that would be fantasy relevant that I would.
Oh,
would
yeah.
want.
No, I still wouldn't feel comfortable
No.
playing Ian Thomas.
No.
Okay. So next is who? New Orleans Saints?
New Orleans Saints.
Nolans.
Hit him with it. Oh, I also have Carolina finishing 10-6 as well.
Who that they're gonna beat them Saints?
Here's who we pretty much have all the way across the board winning the division, probably New Orleans Saints.
What?
I think it's them or Carolina. I think. I have them finishing one win ahead of Carolina. Let's say that.
I think that they improved on their defense, which was actually really good last year and surprised a lot of people. I think that Mark Ingram missing the first 4 games of the season may hurt them a little bit, but the way that Sean Payton runs this offense, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference. It's not going to be like Alvin Kamara's getting all the carries. It's going to be a committee still.
Right, and how does that affect? That's for me how that shakes out, because yeah, huge, maybe not, but if you got a guy that's not as good as Mark Ingram stepping in, and maybe some drives aren't necessarily being sustained kind of like they were, because with Ingram and Kamara, that worked very well for them last year.
Right.
So for me, that's a little up in the air a little bit, because yeah, I agree. I don't think Kamara is just going to just assume all of that extra work. And the pass catchers, you got Michael Thomas, and then
Cameron Meredith.
you got Watson, you got the old tight end coming back,
Cameron
and you got
Meredith.
some injured receivers coming back to the
Again.
to the field. So it's going to be, and you got a rookie coming up. So for me, this I don't know if they just walk into winning the division. They definitely could.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. But the games that Ingram's going to miss is not that. They play basically Tampa Bay, which at home, that's going to be a win. Then they play Cleveland at home, that's a win. At Atlanta, okay, they might maybe lose that game, and then at the Giants and Washington Redskins, and then they go in their bye week. So worst case scenario, they're finishing 4-1, maybe 3-2 if the wheels come off.
That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Cleveland, Tampa, and Washington, all at home. Which one of those games are going to lose?
They'll beat all 3 of those teams.
Yeah, and then you have at Giants and at Atlanta. They're going to win one of those 2, I think. So they're 4-1 going into the bye.
Okay. I mean,
I think the tough part of their schedule comes at the end of the year for the Saints.
We always see a team that nobody gives a shot.
True.
Beat teams.
Who
Any given Sunday.
Is this your Washington plea or Cleveland plea?
No, I'm just saying that
Washington
I'm
or
not ready
Cleveland?
to just pencil them in for 4-1.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we've all watched enough NFL to know that it's not that easy.
Well,
So-
Ingram RB6 last season, Kamara running back 3. They had 2 running backs finish in the top 6 in a PPR league. I don't see that happening again. Even if both of them take a hit, which clearly Ingram's gonna because he's gonna miss a time, but Kamara, we've seen the ceiling on Kamara, I think, and I mean I think the hype train's gotten out of control on Kamara. It's like Hunt did almost the same thing as Kamara, but everyone is all in on Alvin Kamara, and Alvin Kamara is the one to me that's going to be more splitting. Whereas Hunt, even though he has Spencer Ware there and he has Sharkandrick West, I think Hunt is the more guys going to get more touches. But for some reason, why has the hype train gotten so out of control that Kamara is literally being drafted in the first round, top 10 in dynasty leagues?
Yeah, but I don't think it's got out of control because he finished as a top 3 last year, like you said. But
Yeah,
he's
but you
not
can't
being
just use
taken
that.
as the 3rd running back. Like he's being taken as like the
Fifth?
6th
Okay, yeah, I mean
behind Saquon Barkley and most
behind
drafts
all
that
the
we've
bell
seen.
cows, but every single bell cow, when the bell cow, so on, with like the girlie that's Elliott, David Johnson, Bell, whatever. As soon as the very first guy that's not a quote unquote bell cow, he's the very first guy taken.
For running backs. But
Yeah.
in your draft in the first round, if you get him 9th or later, like you wouldn't take him there?
I just think that it's very high to take a guy that had 1 season and now I don't know. It's all good. Like I don't know how he's going to be used now without Ingram there. I don't know if he's going to be used more or the same. But if you're telling me that we've seen the ceiling on him, which I think we have, I just don't see how.
But that's the point. Like if you're drafting him at a ceiling, then you'll be taking him as your 3rd running back, which he's not being drafted as a 3rd running back. He's being drafted as a 6th running back.
Well, that was
Which is
with
the
Elliott.
back
That
end
was
of the
with
first
Elliott though
round.
being suspended all those weeks. So Elliott finished as a top 10, so he could easily beat out Kamara.
Okay, but that's my point. Like if people were taking him as a top 3 running back, then I
Okay.
could say that they're insane. But
I
people
love
are-
Alvin Kamara. I just don't like the fact that he'll never be the guy, ever. In my opinion,
Okay.
that's all. Like I'd rather take the chance on the guy that could be the every down back.
I don't know. I like Kamara too. I had him higher than Hunt when they came out. I definitely liked Kamara more than I liked Kareem Hunt. I don't have a problem necessarily with him not being the guy, quote unquote, bell cow, because I think he thrives in that kind of role that he's in. And even with the other running back who is kind of more of the bell cow-ish, they were basically kind of the same size. So I think he's bigger and he's able to withstand a little more punishment than it seems like he should be able to. And he's in all facets of the game, man, he's the baller.
You think he finishes in top 6?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, even if he finishes number 6, yeah.
I'll do wall bet with both of you, I guess. Kamara finishes outside top 6.
So yeah, for running backs.
Yep. Okay.
Let's do it.
As far as continuing on, do you see anybody there the first 4 weeks that somebody you could not maybe draft, but maybe take a flyer on late in the draft that would fill in the first 4 weeks?
Trey Edmonds or Jonathan Williams. Take your pick.
To me, this is one of those ones where you have to wait for a camp.
Yeah. By the time you're drafting, hopefully, unless you're drafting right now or in the next week or two, you're going to have a better idea of maybe what they want to do while Ingram's out, and if anybody's even looking like it's worth taking a shot on. So yeah, you definitely wait and see. I agree with that, Jay.
Wide receivers,
the one and only Michael Thomas. I mean, that's clear cut number one. That's guy that's going to get most of the targets there.
It's not the one and only Michael Thomas. There's one in LA.
Yeah, but no one remembers him.
It's true.
He got suspended for 4 games last year and then never saw the field after that.
Coming out, he was the better prospect.
Yeah.
Which
that's
is
what's funny about it.
That's
Yeah, because now no one even talks about that guy.
Michael Thomas will be 25 years old at the start of the season. He had 149 targets last season. I don't see that going down anytime soon. He's still the clear-cut number one. It's not even close. But what about like the 2, 3, 4 is kind of where I want to kind of dive in here. You have Ted Ginn is listed as wide receiver 2. Cameron Meredith, who they just acquired from the Chicago Bears, who came off season-ending injury last season. And they added Traquan Smith in the draft. How do you guys see it shaken down with this wide receiver 2, 3, 4? Just like that? Just Ted Ginn, you think is going to be the second highest scoring wide receiver?
No,
I
think in redraft leagues, I'm looking at Meredith.
Second.
I think Meredith should get drafted in this. I think that he fits that role pretty nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And in Chicago, his decent year that he had, he was kind of expected to be the number one,
Yeah.
and then he was going to be the number one, like clear cut, until he got hurt preseason.
Him and Kevin White.
Right.
And they both
And
didn't deliver.
I think that he's in a good role where he's going to be getting the number 2 corners. And I know you don't like using that phrase, Travis, but he's not going to be getting the number 1 shutdown guy because that's going to go on Michael Thomas.
Ever, yeah.
So I think Meredith's in a good situation. I think he can easily beat out Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn had a decent year last year, but I don't know if I'm buying him in redraft this year.
It must have been a lot of long catches, which is obviously what we used to expect from Ted Ginn. But he only had 70 targets, and of the 70 targets, he caught 53 balls, which is actually a really high percentage of catches compared to targets. And he finished as wide receiver 35, so he was actually a wide receiver 3 last year. So if you started him in your flex, theoretically, he was a guy that finished in the top 36 for last season, and I was kind of surprised by that. He only played 15 games. So if he played one more game, maybe finished wide receiver 32, 33-ish, in that range if you take his average. But only 70 targets, and I'm looking at the rest of the receivers, and where does Cameron Meredith fit in there? Like, how many targets do we really see Meredith and Traquan Smith getting? Because you think that Drew Brees, when you think of Drew Brees, you think, oh, he throws the ball, 600 times a year.
But not last year.
Last year he threw it 536 times, though. 530, but he spreads it out to so many people with both running backs, the tight end, every receiver. If you're on the field, Drew Brees, the guy that's going to find you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you think when you have a Saints player, you're like, oh, I got Drew Brees, I'm good. Like I want to own shares of the New Orleans Saints offense, and that's true to some extent. Yeah. But after the number 1 receiver, it's kind of just spread out so much that like I don't want to rely on any of those guys to play every week.
So who are you putting your chips on outside of Michael Thomas?
Cameron Meredith, I guess. That's the only guy. Traquan Smith I like in a dynasty league, but I just think I don't think that he comes right in and beats out Cameron Meredith. I think Cameron Meredith should be the second, and then Ted Ginn's the third, and then Traquan Smith is who I want to own in that order. For redraft.
I had completely forgotten that Ted Ginn was drafted in the first round when he came out. Did you realize that?
Yeah.
He's the only first-round pedigree guy that you're not trying to acquire in Dynasty.
He got knocked, I think, for some drops and stuff earlier in his career. But I think a lot of that is the type of routes he runs. When you run those deep routes, yeah, you're going to get overthrown. You're going to drop some balls. That's going to happen.
Yeah, but he was dropping them when they hit him right in the hand. Like, they were right on the money.
Is Brandon Coleman now?
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
Brandon Coleman's not in the top. He doesn't beat out any of those guys.
No, Coleman is what he's going to be. Like,
yeah,
he's
23 catches and 3 touchdowns last season.
20 to 30 catches, and that's about it.
That was a ball bet last year.
It was. I won that one. And that was with a lot of help. I couldn't believe I still won that with all this shit.
Because he started off like on fire. Like, it was like 4 targets, 5 targets. I was like, here we go. It's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like towards the end of the season, he was getting like 1 target a game.
Yeah, he finished wide receiver 82 last season. But yeah, okay, I have the Saints finishing at 12. Or you want to talk tight ends real quick? Ben Watson, you have Josh Hill. Either one of those two?
Well, before we move on, I'll throw my 2 cents in on the Traquan Smith and the Cameron Meredith. I am very skeptical, not skeptical, but I'm very wait and see on Cameron Meredith because he had a pretty serious injury. So I don't know how, if he was healthy pre-injury, yeah, I would definitely pencil him right in. But That injury, I think, is going to be difficult to.
But it happened
back
so long. Like, it was like, was it preseason or was it game one?
Some injuries you just never. I think it was preseason.
Okay. Yeah, it was like preseason game 3. So he's gonna have over a year. But I mean, yeah, you're right. Sometimes that's not enough.
So let's wait and see. So how training camp goes, some of the reports coming out, maybe even in preseason. Like if he's looking healthy, then yeah, I would definitely put it on Cameron Meredith because I think he's got some skill. He's a decent receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how rookies are their first year, but even in a high-powered offense.
And you're taking what? Who was back? Was it Cutler? No, who was before Mitch Trubisky? The year that he had a good season with
Mike Glennon.
Glennon
Was there
and
before
like
Trubisky.
whoever else. I mean, it was just a bunch of quarterback. Now you put him on Drew Brees' team, you're gonna get a lot more accurate targets than you would with whatever the mess was going on in Chicago there.
Did Glennon even play when they brought him up?
Couple
they signed
games.
him and then they drafted him, and then all of a sudden it was Trubisky pretty much.
Yeah, but we're talking 2 seasons ago before Trubisky.
Yeah, it was Cutler, right?
I think it was Cutler and it was like a bunch of.
Glennon wasn't there until they signed Trubisky and
Okay,
Glennon
so
the same
before.
year.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha.
Because that was the talk, kind of like, wow, you just signed this guy.
Doesn't it seem like last year's is like 3 years ago?
Sometimes it gets all.
I was going back looking at my notes of some of the stuff that we were, and I was like, "What was this?" And then I'm like, "Well, it's got to be last year because we've only been doing it for a year, but it just feels like there's a lot to."
And Ben Watson, anything? I mean, Ben Watson's going to win that job. He's only 37, so
he's got 4 more years.
Yeah, he should win that job pretty easily.
Yeah, not relevant. Okay,
last time he had a really, really good year was with Drew Brees.
With Drew Brees, yeah.
Okay. Let's fly through Tampa real quick here. Tampa
Bay Bucs.
Just fly over.
Winston's 3-game suspension to start the season. That was upheld. So you're going to see probably Ryan Fitzpatrick start that, which from what we've seen in Fitzpatrick in the past is that he can be accurate. He's not very flashy. He's not going to be a sexy pick in any dynasty or any redraft leagues.
No, he's a waiver wire play if you don't have a quarterback, which would be impossible because of the first 3 weeks of the season, so there's no one on a bye.
But does he affect the rest of the offense? Not saying that he's not a good quarterback, but does he affect any of the running backs or receivers? Did they take a dip at all?
I honestly think that he's just as good as Jameis Winston as far as throwing, not necessarily talent-wise. I agree that Jameis Winston's got the talent far and ahead of Ryan Fitzpatrick, but as far as fantasy relevant, like my wide receivers, I'm not going to not start Mike Evans. I'm not going to not start Cameron Brate, or I'm not going to not, you know what I mean? Like the guys that you're going to start, you're going to start. It doesn't matter if it's Jameis Winston.
As far as being respectful to Uber drivers, I'm taking Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
Yeah, especially with, Winston's going to be out, so he's going to have, all this time to be prepared to start for those first 4 weeks. So I think it's going to be fine.
Something happens to him every year, though.
Who?
Winston. Whether it's his shoulder, or like last season he only played 13 games again. Now you're penciling him in again. It's just hard to take Jameis Winston. To me, like in redrafts, it's like you expect him. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick, they said, I don't know what the stat was, but Ryan Fitzpatrick has played in a game as a starting quarterback like absurd amount, like 14 seasons in a row. Because whatever team he's on, that quarterback misses time at some point. 14 consecutive seasons as a backup quarterback, he has actually got to play multiple games a season, every single season. Then it's going to be again because now he's getting suspended. Last season he only played 13 games. Now this season he's going to play 13
Some backups don't get to play at all.
That's what I'm saying. And he's played every single year. I just thought that was kind of funny.
So if your team signs Fitzpatrick to be a backup, then look out.
Yes. I don't want him on Detroit, please.
That's a little sketchy.
Right?
He's a Harvard guy. He might be one of those geniuses doing some...
He does, or is he done?
Flowers in the attic in his little.
If I was a backup quarterback, I would just want to be the backup quarterback. I'll put me on the sideline with a clipboard. I'll give you like whatever you need. But like the worst to me is being a backup quarterback, and at the end of the game, when the game's out of hand, they're like, "Hey, bro, you're 40 years old or 39, whatever. Go in there and kneel on the ball 3 times." That's the biggest slap in the face to me. Like I just don't. If I was a backup quarterback, I'm like, come on, man. I'm still in the NFL.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, just to touch on Winston, I think a sneaky play is to if you're
pun intended.
If you're gonna fade the quarterback, is snag him late with somebody else that you'll just play for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
because he started off the season last year on fire.
And everyone's gonna stay away from him because of the suspension.
And I think he's gonna play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for kind of getting suspended, and he's just kind of taking it. He's gonna do it. He's not really speaking out, doing anything nutty about it. So, but I think when he comes back, he's gonna have a little fire.
I agree. Okay, running back wise, you guys want to talk about this mess?
Yeah, to me, it's only 2 guys to even talk about. I don't think, in my opinion, Sims or Jacquizz Rodgers are relevant at all, even in redraft leagues or dynasty. It's Ronald Jones and Peyton Barber.
Yeah. I
want to see how camp goes before I put all my chips in this one of these guys' basket, because I'm not so sure that Peyton Barber just goes away because they drafted Ronald Jones in the 2nd round.
Going back and looking at their running backs from last season, here's how they finished. Barber, running back 55. Doug Martin, running back 64. Charles Sims, running back 66. All 3 of them are right in that little range of garbage.
Which is why they knew they needed to draft a running back and they did. They
But-
got Ronald Jones, but I'm not just so sure that he's the guy that's going to be the answer to everything.
But the targets to the running backs, I was kind of, I don't know, I thought there was more targets. But if you look, Barber last season got 19 targets, Doug Martin got 18 targets, and Charles Sims got 47 targets. So the total was at 70, 75-ish targets to the running back. Like, if you look at that and then you look at the Carolina Panthers, definitely a different scheme and a different offense being run. When the Carolina Panthers running backs are getting 150 or 160 targets in a season, and they're getting less than half of that here in Tampa. So the guys that think that Ronald Jones is going to come in and get that 50 or 60 catches and just be the man, like, I just don't see that happening because they don't throw to just one guy out of the backfield, if at all, to their running backs. So I don't know which guy. I mean, obviously I'd rather own Ronald Jones, but I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones split, like, directly down the middle.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm not so sure that Peyton Barber just all of a sudden just disappears.
But Sims had the most targets last season, so you don't think Sims is just
in a PPR later in the draft, which is where you'll be able to get Sims, is like, I think that he's a good roster kind of a guy to have on your squad for bye weeks and this and that. I think he's going to be
like you lose 138 attempts that went to Doug Martin. You give those 138 attempts maybe to Ronald Jones. Barber still gets his 100 attempts, so they kind of split there. And then Sims is the guy that had 47 targets. He had 250 yards and a touchdown on 35 catches last season. I don't think they just stopped using Charles Sims at all.
I just don't see a situation where I'd ever be okay with starting Sims. Like, I think I would always find a better running back.
He doesn't get injuries and he doesn't have bye weeks that conflict. So, yeah, he probably wouldn't need him.
You are perfect, Jay. That's why we love you. Wide receivers.
Well, I'm going to go on a limb and say I won't own Charles Sims in any leagues. How about that? So I won't have to worry about ever playing him.
Catch me outside. How about that? Wide receivers. Mike Evans, top, in Travis' eyes, top 3. In my eyes, maybe top
12.
14, yeah. Top 12-ish, right outside wide receiver 1, I think, because of inconsistency of the quarterback. If you put him on a different team, I think that he's a fantasy stud and should finish in the top 5. But, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like there's always something going on in Tampa. It seems like with the quarterback or with Doug Martin and his suspensions, or I don't know. It just always seems like the wheels are falling off in Tampa at any moment.
Is this the year that Godwin takes over for Jackson?
No.
Deshaun Jackson is.
I think it's football. And Tampa Bay, they got hit with some injuries. They got hit with a few different things. Their quarterback got injured.
Suspensions, drug use.
Look at the way when everybody was healthy and they started the season. Like, Jay, you can attest to this. Like, Winston was on fire.
Yeah.
So if he stays healthy and whatever, the inconsistencies come from injury and some different things going on. Like, I don't think it's just a dumpster fire there necessarily.
It just seems like at any moment the team could just collapse. That's how I get the feeling.
I don't feel like that. I mean, the running back situation last year definitely was that feeling. But as a team, I don't think it's necessarily that vibe for me.
So who finishes as the wide receiver 2 here? After Mike Evans, you have Deshaun Jackson, Adam Humphries, Chris Godwin. Anybody favor anybody else? I mean, I know no one likes Adam Humphries. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get caught here with my pants down and say something outrageous. I'm not looking for a wall bet, okay?
I like Humphries as well. He's a very underrated slot guy.
Bold prediction. It seems to me like he's like an Adam Thielen type. The guy.
Whoa.
Listen to this. Listen, hang on. He's only
definitely getting caught with your pants down.
He's 25 years old. He finished as wide receiver 49 last year and only had 83 targets. So the guy had 83 targets and had 61 catches, 631 yards. Yes, the touchdowns weren't there, but 60 catches and 631 yards, and he's only going to be 25 years old at the start of the season. It's not like why is he just being written off as just a guy that's just like, yeah, he had a great year, but like, who cares? Like, I don't know why no one likes him.
Because he has better guys in front of him.
I don't know if he had a great year.
Who? I think that Godwin overtakes him this year. I think Chris Godwin does. I think they're going to try to get Deshaun Jackson more involved.
Deshaun Jackson finished 4 spots higher than him on 11 less catches, and it was only because he had 2 more touchdowns. That was the difference. He had 2 touchdowns.
To me, he's the 4th option in the passing game as far as, at best. That's the best.
Okay, I'll take Humphries versus Deshaun Jackson.
And that's with even taking O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate, because who knows what they're going to do at tight end this year.
Right, there's a lot of, obviously outside of Mike Evans, that's why it's, again, to me, I don't want to use the word mess again, but it's kind of just up in the air, I guess you would say, of like, who's going to get these targets? Deshaun Jackson's always going to get the long targets or the long, touchdowns, and I get that. But then you have Humphries, you have Godwin, and then both 2 tight ends that both are pass catchers. You have Howard and Brate. So those 4 or 5 guys are kind of just, who knows what's going to happen out of there.
I just think that this offense is good enough to make 2 receivers fantasy relevant. And obviously Mike Evans is going to be one of them, so that leaves 1 fantasy relevant spot.
And you think that's Godwin?
And I think it's going to be Godwin. I think that they do get Jackson more involved. So, I mean, my toss-up is between Jackson and Godwin. Adam Humphries
is
to
an
me
odd man out, even though he had 61 catches last season. Like, that's just.
Are we just basing on what they did last season? Is that what we're going off of?
Like how fantasy relevant is he for your team though necessarily?
More than Chris Godwin in a redraft, that's for sure. I don't think either one of them should be drafted.
Well,
I'll take Godwin over Humphries.
So what do we
For
arguing about?
fantasy points?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't think either one of them should be drafted, what are we
Dynasty.
really talking about?
Dynasty.
Like, I agree with you. I think he's an underrated slot guy. He's good in his role, but
He's going to have a breakout season, I think.
You know where
I
he'd
think
be great is in New England.
I'll take Thielen over Humphries since you like him and compare him so much.
All I said is he's a
After 25.
okay. Oh, I'll tell you what. How about 2 seasons ago? Did anyone ever say, you know what? I can see Adam Thielen finishing as a top 10 wide receiver, and the answer is no. No one saw that coming. He had a gigantic season, and everyone's like, Adam Thielen, this white guy. But now all of a sudden he's like the hottest thing since sliced bread.
He didn't have any competition in front of him. He had
Who?
Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen.
Laquan Treadwell, he didn't have to beat out, who never
He
panned
was
out
getting
anything.
off-season trouble like left and right, James. He has nobody. I'm talking Adam Humphries in his current situation on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's not beating out Evans and Deshaun Jackson or Godwin.
Yes, he is. Not Evans, but I guarantee he'll beat out. For sure, he's beating out Godwin in fantasy points. There's no.
I can't wait till
I'm
redraft
so
season
strong.
starts and you take him in every league.
I'm not gonna take. I'm saying just in fantasy points wise. I didn't say you had to draft him in the 4th round. Just fantasy points at the end of the season. Who's gonna have more? You guys are betting over here on wall bets between Corey Grant and TJ Yeldon rushing yards. Not to say that you're gonna go draft Corey Grant, are you? I'm just saying I think he's gonna finish higher than Godwin.
And I have a wall
But
bet.
he didn't compare Corey Grant to Alvin Kamara.
Right.
Like, you're going out on a limb, bro. Pull those pants
Adam
up.
Thielen had 1 good year. Now all of a sudden he's just okay. All right, Adam Thielen is.
The year before.
I know you're a Minnesota fan, but it's
not
not
2
crazy.
years.
Okay,
He's at
not 2 top 10 finishes, Jay.
No,
Why do you
he's
keep
at-
changing it though? I mean, he's had
'Cause they're
2 good years. They are not the same kind of guy whatsoever.
Yeah, they are.
No, they're not. You are crazy.
They're both white guys.
Yep.
Well,
They
okay.
both
They
run
wide
really
receiver.
good routes, and they both catch.
I
Okay.
stand corrected.
Look at their catch rate. Look at their catch rate, guys. Come on. Think outside the box for once in your life.
Thielen, wasn't he pretty high on drops?
Yeah, because he got so many damn targets this season. He had like 160 targets or whatever. 155 targets, right? Humphries won't need that many.
And Humphries, what's his average depth of target compared to Thielen's?
7 to 8.5 yards. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. All right, Cameron Brate and OJ Howard. Which one's the tight end you gotta own? Pick one. We got 2 minutes.
I'll take Brate because he
I will
seems to be
too.
a red zone kind of guy.
I will
but
take-
I don't know if I'd want either one of them.
I'm
really.
taking Brate easily. I think. I
I'm
don't
taking
know.
Brayton redraft, and I'm taking Howard in Dynasty.
I know, but okay.
It's simple for me. I'm not taking
Yeah.
Brayton in a Dynasty league.
I will draft Brate in a
In a
Brate
redraft, I would draft
yes.
Brayton first.
And I don't know if OJ Howard. He'll probably get drafted by somebody because of his name in redraft, but I don't know if he's going to be fantasy relevant again.
Well, this
Or
is
like
the thing.
something you can rely on starting every
For
week.
sure.
Where I think Brate, I think
sure.
I would be very comfortable putting Brate in my tight end slot, knowing he's going to get you, 4 to 10 points, and that
Right.
he's never going to
More
go completely
consistent.
targetless.
Yes.
Whereas OJ Howard might have a 3 touchdown game and then
Right.
never hear from him again.
Right. And then you throw him in your lineup, and then
And you just look like a fool every week.
right.
Don't do it.
Turns around and gets you 4 catches for 16 yards.
Well, unless he's in Travis's tight end premium league, where if they just look his way, he gets 4 points, and I feel comfortable starting OJ Howard in a tight end premium.
That's right, baby.
Otherwise, no.
Get out and try different formats, boys and girls.
Yeah,
it's
that's
a good
what.
time.
Exactly. You guys ready to crack one?
Let's crack it.
Yes.
Crack it.